This might be the darkest short story about towering elites I've ever heard. And the more I listened, the more I realized it's not even fiction. It's a reflection of the world we already live in, where the tall, rich, and beautiful rule like a separate species, and the rest of us only exist to serve them. The story's called Mexico's Most Sinister Secret, Millionaires Are Monsters, from a channel called K.I. Nimrod. Actually, I guess it would be Nimrod. Not like I know what that means anyway. I translated it from Spanish and added my own commentary to expose the real-life implications. Let's get into it. A man named Eduardo works as a waiter. He's known for being the hardest worker in the restaurant and for accepting almost any assignment. His reputation preceded him, and his boss called him up one day out of the blue. Trying to stay calm, he said to Eduardo, "Hey, listen, I've got one of the partners on the phone. This partner also runs a catering service, not just the restaurant. He has a company that provides catering, waiters, bussers, tables, chairs, and so on for public and private events." Eduardo thought nothing of catering a fancy dinner to the rich, but what he would end up witnessing would catch him by surprise and reveal something way darker and way too real. And this is where it all begins. A last-minute replacement for a 150-person catering event after 2 waiters mysteriously went missing. But they're offering 1,500 pesos to work until 4 to 6 a.m. 1,500 pesos equals 81 American dollars. And I'm not gonna lie, that does not sound like very good pay for having to serve snobby elites and probably not receiving tips. Although, if you know me, I would enjoy the constant height-mogging. Almost enough to try and make them angry on purpose so I can experience their full wrath. The partner replied that someone would come in a vehicle to pick them up and take them to the event. Just make sure they're ready and dressed in their uniforms. It's a special kind of service. Jose said okay and ended the call. A special kind of service? Sounds like they're asking him to work at the Bohemian Grove or something. It was about an hour's trip until they reached a place Eduardo couldn't quite identify. I don't know if it was an estate, a ranch, whatever it was huge, he said. We arrived by a dirt road winding through tall trees and brush. At the end, we saw large walls and a huge gate that was open. That fits the stereotype perfectly, just as I thought. Tall, rich elites always own vast country estates, so they can grow everything farm to table and raise their families on only the finest air and water. An ideal natural upbringing designed for them all to reach their full genetic potential and to improve their stock with each new generation. The boss explained how the tables were numbered, rows of tables from 1 to 10, and so on. Do you understand? Eduardo said yes. Now, something important, the boss said. This isn't like the restaurant. Don't chat with the guests. Don't smile. Don't greet them. Do not look at them in the eye. Just listen, respond immediately if spoken to, and only ask things like, "May I take your plate?" or "Would you like anything else?" That's it. The less you talk, the better. Eduardo agreed. Peasants are to know their place and never talk to their overlords as equals. Our lives have no other purpose but to serve them and submit. As the boss gave instructions, Eduardo looked around. The place was huge, beautifully arranged with live music. There was a well-known Mexican band performing, Eduardo said. The lawn was perfect, and there were several buildings around, even a stable with horses in the distance. It was luxurious. But he noticed something strange. Most of the guests looked foreign, white, many blonde with blue eyes. Even from far away, you could tell they weren't Mexican. There were also kids, maybe 8 or 10 years old, running and laughing. But here's what freaked me out. These kids were tall, almost my height. I'm 1.7 meters tall, Eduardo said. Their faces looked like children, but their bodies were large, their arms and legs thick. He realized that if you saw them on the street, you would not think they were kids unless you heard their voices or saw their faces up close. They had fair skin and blue eyes. It was creepy to see children like that, big and pale. Eduardo couldn't help watching them while trying not to stare. I thought, this girl looks 8, this boy maybe 9 or 10, but they're my size. The superior genetic stock of modern-day elites is the result of many generations of positive epigenetic mutation and a strong foundation of well-fed, aristocratic, colonizer/nobility ancestry. These towering gentry are naturally built to be kings and queens, but not only are they genetically superior, but developmentally as well. To build a larger foundation, it takes much more time. The aristocrat's body spends more than twice as much time growing as the submissive serf's. They achieve maximum potential and complete purity, which can only be done with a great wealth of resources. It's expensive to provide only the best for a growing child for that long and prevent them from being corrupted by the saturation and variety of endocrine-disrupting chemicals in modern society. It's an inescapable maze for the servile class, as intended, to keep them branded and forever marked as property of the elite, and nip any potential threat in the bud from the start by stunting their growth and making them sickly and reliant on the system the elite had crafted for them, to keep you weak, submissive, and trapped in debt slavery, and to profit off providing the treatment for the many health problems they caused you. There's nowhere left to run from their insurmountable power, both physically and socioeconomically. As he carried heavy trays back and forth, he noticed the guests glaring at him. Cold, hateful, disgusted looks. I felt like at any moment one of them could stab me with a fork or knife, he said. I'd never seen such pure disgust. At one point, he made the mistake of looking directly at a man about 50 years old sitting at the table. "Good evening, would you like anything else?" Eduardo asked. The man, with pale brown skin and a wide, oddly shaped face, just stared at him with hatred, then looked back at his plate without a word. Eduardo remembered the warning. Do not look at them. The children of the towering elite are taught from a very young age that they're above their lessers. Their parents teach them to assert their dominance by putting their inferiors in their place with bullying, humiliation, and intimidation. Their larger, more powerful bodies help with that. They develop a superiority complex that persists from generation to generation. Their towering height only reinforces the feeling of supremacy, while looking down their nose at everyone they rule over. Shaken, he returned to the kitchen, trembling. The next trays were heavy, 10 kilos or more. His arms hurt, and finally he asked the captain if he could rest 5 or 10 minutes. The captain agreed, but told him to stay near the kitchen. Eduardo sat on a chair outside, massaging his arms, watching the event from afar. People of supreme stature and frame require many times the quantity of food as plebeians for their bodies to flourish as much as they do, and for their offspring to grow big and healthy enough to reach such godlike potential. And considering it's all small batch, heirloom, organic food grown and raised on their own farms, the sheer expense to raise just one of them to adulthood would be unimaginable for the average family. From a distance, it all looked normal. People laughing, eating, music, kids playing. But when you got close, they were awful, full of hatred, Eduardo said. Even from far away, he saw guests staring at the waiters with contempt as they passed by. They only see each other as human. The stunted plebeians who serve them are subhuman and an eyesore. There isn't much stopping any of them from asserting their power and throwing you around like an abusive father to his child. You're completely helpless to their might. The rest of the story devolves into a horror fantasy and loses all semblance of reality, though we still have some knowledge to gain from it. Some of the kids beckon him to a bush, where he sees them bending down and eating parts of the other waiter. Eduardo runs away to the security woman, who tells him the elites aren't human, but they won't hurt him as long as he stays calm. They let him leave early without any payment, which is really messed up, and he gets told on the ride home that everyone who works there already knows what's up. Obviously, I don't believe the full story past a certain point, but I do believe that it was based on a true story. I think there are a lot of service workers probably working in places full of towering elites, where all the rich are tall and all the servants are small. They feel inferior, intimidated, submissive, and afraid. They can see and feel the disdain and disgust in the eyes of their masters as they look down on them. They may have even experienced physical abuse and punishment at the hands of their towering overseers, helpless to stop them, and knowing that the elite can easily get away with it. Having had this traumatic experience repeatedly, someone felt the need to process it by writing this wild story, painting his masters as something other than human, to help him cope with his feelings of inferiority and helplessness, and to provide an explanation for the feeling of disdain from those who looked down on them. All of these experiences can take a massive toll on the psyche of the servant class. Being frequently height-mogged by elites and noticing the undeniable pattern of the ruling class being disproportionately tall, strong, and healthy, these submissive servants feel defenseless. They surrender to the insurmountable power of their overlords and know their place as peons, slaving away with their only reward for a lifetime of service being to be barely kept alive by artificial means. I can see the supernatural horror component there. The elite agenda is almost like a form of necromancy. Create this industrialized society that mass produces toxic products and processed food at an unheard of scale, which allows the population to expand to match. But the catch? The existence of this new class of people is entirely unnatural. A cushy industrial society allows beings to exist who never otherwise could exist, and like necromancy, it resembles raising an undead army of puny goblin minions. You almost can't imagine these polar opposites in the hierarchy or even the same species, or that there was a time in past generations when we were all closer in stature. This new class of submissive runts have no leverage over their rulers because they're completely dependent on the elite for their existence and survival, and are entirely saturated and warped by the artificial chemicals their masters fed them. Not only their society, but their very bodies and lives are crafted and molded from cradle to grave by the descendants of the colonizing aristocracy, the old money families who forged the global economy throughout history. And as their plan for supremacy continuously unfolds, the plebeian class will grow dumber, poorer, weaker, sicklier, and more numerous and more stunted and warped by chemicals over generations. Meanwhile, their masters will grow smarter, taller, richer, stronger, broader, healthier, fewer in number, and more attractive. It's the Matthew effect in action, just as they planned. More serfs means a larger labor supply, taking more negotiating power away from each individual worker. And the shrinking and deterioration of their bodies means a guarantee of complete and utter domination in every way, and a permanent mark of the extreme disparity that has become an unmistakable status symbol, a continuous reminder of who's really in charge, and a constant source of fear and intimidation to continuously reinforce where the balance of power lies. And the humiliation of it all does wonders at destroying the confidence of any would-be rebels. Their goal is to crush any possibility their human livestock have of climbing the social ladder, and to farm us like the sheep we were raised to be. And to the serfs of the year 2100, have fun asking for a raise when you're looking up at your boss, eyes level with their pants button, their voice being deep and commanding.
Well, you just sound like a little girl.
If you want to watch the original video in Spanish, I linked it in the pinned comment. But now I want to hear from you. How would you feel if you received undeniable confirmation that the people you work for, who you take orders from, see you as less than human? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if this hit home for you, help me fight back. Like the video, share it with anyone you think would relate, give it some hype points. Subscribe for more brutal truths. Organic engagement is the only way we can push back against this suppression. It's the only way content like this, content that exposes the truth about power, beauty, and the caste system we're trapped in, ever breaks through the censorship of big tech. We're waking people up, one brutal truth at a time.